time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Chad Erickson. Welcome to this Monday edition of the program. We got a lot to do over the next 60 minutes. My man Tino Pattigno. It's a NASCAR Monday? Because we didn't get to talk to him last week on a Friday. Yesterday, the cutoff race for the playoffs. We'll talk to him, get some thoughts with him on that. Also, we'll be happy to be joined by our friend Bill Bender, who does a great job with the sporting news on all things college football. Talk about week 1 of college football with him, get to a few games in particular. Ross Tucker drops by in 10 minutes, does a great job with Westwood One, the Ross Tucker Football Show podcast, CBS. He's got the Bills and Cardinals this week. We'll talk all about that with Ross Tucker. But we start things out a little differently today because I've been kind of teasing over the last few weeks that some exciting things were happening with the show. We have grown. Say hi to Sammy Arnell, by the way. I'll tell you about him in a second. Much more than just a handsome face, by the way. So I want to kind of backtrack. We started doing this show January 1st of this past year. And when we started, we had no idea what it was going to do. We could have been on for a week. We could have been on for a month. We were on like 25 affiliates. Who was watching? All of that. It was kind of wild. As of today, SportsWrap is now on over 200 affiliates after just 8 months. It's incredible. It's insane. And Sam, I thought it would be a good idea today with this first segment of the show, not to go too crazy in introducing ourselves, because, again, we've added so many affiliates just in this tranche here on September 2nd. Over 100 new affiliates came in here for the fall season, for the fall launch of the show, if you will, that I thought it would be a good idea to just kind of tell people what SportsWrap is about. And I'm going to make it real simple. We don't have any big corporate bosses. We don't, we're not on any of those 4-letter or 3-letter networks that you know and love so much. We don't have an agenda other than stories. We love to talk about the stories. And sometimes that involves wins and losses. Sometimes that involves angles that don't have anything to do with wins and losses. Sometimes it has to do with sports betting. But at the end of the day, we're about the stories. And that came to mind as I was thinking about how I wanted to sort of reintroduce ourselves to the audience today, Sam. Because if you look at this past weekend in sports, you had examples of big sports moments that aren't necessarily as gigantic a story as you would think. And you have other moments and other sports stories that are gigantic moments and are gigantic sports stories that we've been talking about here over the last 8 or 9 months that we've been doing the show. So I begin with Scotty Scheffler, who captures the FedEx Cup title. He wins the Tour Championship, $25 million, over $60 million in earnings just this season. And you know what I couldn't help but think to myself, Sam? Okay. I was going to give it a minute at the end of the show on this Monday where we come back from vacation. I've been off for about a week and a half. Only time off I'll take between January of 24 and May of 25. But I look at the Scotty Scheffler thing and I'm like, it's news, but is it really a story? He's dominated so much of the year. There was a brief time where we thought maybe Xander Schauffele could challenge him. That didn't come to pass. And it's the year of Scotty Scheffler. Great. But is there anything about Scotty Scheffler that makes him story-worthy?
I think the story, Jason, and it's great to be with you every day on the program. Sam Y, the sports guy, the Prince of Picks, as Jason calls me. You'll get much more into that later this week, Jason. It's episode 1 of Page versus the Prince. We got to bring it back for season 2. To the Scotty thing, it's incredible what he's done this year in the world of golf. Yes, the stories, though, within this story really lie within the last day of that tournament and also have much more to do with other players rather than Scotty himself. When we talk about the last day of the tournament, there was a point where I think it was Morikawa was within 2 shots, 8 holes deep into the final round, and then Scotty pulled away at the end. Yeah, there was almost a story there. You're right. But in the grand scheme of things, when we talk about the season, Scotty Scheffler is your PGA Player of the Year, and it's not going to be close.
No.
It's incredible, Jason, and I think the story may be that he's able to do that in a year where Xander Schauffele won 2 majors. How often do we see a player win 2 of the 4 majors and not win Player of the Year? That, I think, is where the story is within this whole Scotty Scheffler win.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. But then you go to something like the U.S. Open. On the tennis side, I was texting with our friend Patrick McEnroe this morning about that. Name drop. I'll pick that up. Carlos Alcaraz out. Novak Djokovic out. And you start to ask yourself, oh, my God, this tournament's lost all its buzz. And then parachutes in Francis Tiafoe, who's been terrible this year by his own admission. A huge disappointment. Coming off what he did last year. And now all of a sudden the story starts to become, one, can an American win this event for the first time in eons since Andy Roddick was the last to do it? And could it be this hometown kid in Francis Tiafoe? And I say that with love and affection. Could it be Francis Tiafoe that winds up being the story of this tournament? Somebody who went to this tournament as a kid. I think, to me, again, I'm in the story business. I get excited for stories. And watching him last night beat the guy who beat Djokovic, and you start to realize it's right there for Francis Tiafoe.
Another story coming out of this U.S. Open, Jason, dating back to something you and I talked about a couple of weeks ago. Jack Draper still alive in the fourth round into the quarterfinals of this event. Jack Draper, who? Jack Draper, the winner, getting into this tournament on a controversial call at one of the lead-up tournaments. I believe it was the Cincinnati Open just a couple of weeks ago. The stories are flying everywhere. And let's not forget Jannik Sinner, who now is the favorite to win this tournament on his best court surface. I'm here for this U.S. Open over the next week.
And Coco Gauff is out as well, so there is that. Another disappointment for her. And then last but not least, in the few seconds we have left in the segment, Caitlin Clark, who's not just a Rookie of the Year winner. You could stamp that one and give it to her now, Sam. You got to start talking about her for MVP. I mean, and I'm not just talking about in the long shot sense. I mean, what she's doing right now in lifting that team, a game over 500, the dreadful start. I think they were like 1-8 out of the gate. Caitlin Clark, I mean, what do you think? Real quick.
She's definitely the Rookie of the Year, but Asia Wilson's the MVP. We don't talk enough about how Angel Reese can't make within 5 feet of the basket.
Exactly. How many of her rebounds come off her own misses? Ross Tucker joins us next. Rolling along on this Monday edition of Sports Wrap. It's NFL Week 1. It is here. And great to talk about it with our friend Ross Tucker, host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. You can also catch him on the CBS game broadcasts this year on your television. Social media at Ross Tucker NFL if you're looking for him over on X. We'll also talk about myfrontpagestory.com, which if you have not checked out yet, we've had Ross on the show, and he's talked about it. We got to talk about that as well. Ross, happy week 1 of NFL season. It's here, my friend.
Yeah, it's funny, Jason, because that seems to be the consensus. You know, for me, this will be my 5th game. It's funny because I do the Eagles preseason games. So I did those 3, and then I did UCLA at Hawaii Saturday night for college football. But yeah, man, I'm fired up. Obviously, starting Thursday night, what a great opener. Ravens, Chiefs. I'm actually doing a watch party on behalf of my friends from Labatt Blue Light in Buffalo, since I'm going to be up there for Cardinals Bills anyway. So I love it when a plan comes together. Let's get this thing going.
How are you even coherent? If you were in Hawaii?
Saturday night. I was in Hawaii. I did UCLA Hawaii Saturday night. And then
even more grateful.
You'll love this, man. I don't mess around, right? So the game ends at like 5:30 Hawaiian time. I take a red eye from Honolulu to Denver. Denver here to Pennsylvania. I went right to my buddy's Pig roast yesterday, right? I mean, I went right there. I literally in the airport brushed my teeth and took a little birdie bath and went right there. And I did get a pretty good night's rest last night, though, for sure.
My goodness, I'm even more grateful for you coming on the show, given all that. All right, what is the storyline that most intrigues Ross Tucker heading into the 2024 NFL season?
Ooh, good question. Probably Aaron Rodgers. Probably Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. Certainly the Chiefs going for 3 in a row is interesting. The Detroit Lions, can they get to the Super Bowl, is a good storyline. Always rookie quarterbacks, of course. But for me, since it felt like we didn't get it last year, I'm really anxious to see how Aaron Rodgers and the Jets perform. I think that's the one that I'll be focused in on to see just exactly how well he's able to play. He's not young anymore. He's coming off of a pretty serious injury. It's a new team. I really don't know what to expect. Do we get top 5 Aaron Rodgers, or is he more like a top 15 quarterback, which, by the way, the Jets would still gladly take given their recent history at the position. But I think Aaron Rodgers is the number one storyline for me.
Yeah, and Ian O'Connor will join us on the show Thursday to talk about his new book, obviously the biography on Aaron Rodgers. To me, it's the Chiefs and the goal for 3 in a row. I mean, it's never been done, and this group has an opportunity to do it. What do you think? And God, I remember you saw him last year in that freezing cold game, if I'm not mistaken. You were at that game, broadcasting, I think, for Westwood One. Give me some idea on what you think the biggest roadblock is for the Chiefs trying to get the three-peat.
Well, I think it's the mental and physical grind.
Like the Bills are. 3rd and 9, blitz coming. Allen sees it, steps away, says go over there. Diggs! Are you serious? 1-hander and a first down.
Then most other teams they'll go against this season. And so I can add a little bit of insight into this, Jason, in the sense that I got signed by New England in 2005 when they were going for their 3rd straight Super Bowl, which, by the way, has never been done. And the reason why I got signed is because they had a lot of injuries, right? I mean, arguably their 2 best offensive linemen, or 2 of their best offensive linemen, and Dan Copen, the center, Matt Light, the left tackle, were both hurt. I just think it adds a lot of tread on the tires when you win back-to-back Super Bowls like they've done. You don't get as much rest and recovery. You don't get those things. So I think that's probably the biggest roadblock. And then the other thing is, it's hard to win these games. It's hard to win playoff games when you think about that game they had in Buffalo. You think about the game in Baltimore. There's situations certainly where it felt like a play or 2 goes the other way and they lose. And that's probably what will end up happening, right? I mean, they have found a way to win these games. They've gotten the better of them 2 years in a row now. A lot of close playoff games. The Bengals AFC Championship game a couple years ago. Certainly the Eagles Super Bowl. And so, I think the odds are they're going to lose one this year, right? I mean, my guess is they don't get the number 1 seed because they probably don't play, Travis Kelce 100% of the time, trying to save him. And I mean, they kind of figured out last year, Jay,
they don't need
They can just go to the playoffs and win. They don't need to have the best record. They don't need to have number 1 seed. So I think they'll end up losing one of those road playoff games, but I thought that last year too.
What makes Detroit take that next step that everybody's anticipating Dan Campbell's team to make?
I think just the confidence and the knowledge now that they can. I think last year they had a couple nice playoff wins and it was new and exciting, and then they just weren't able to finish against San Francisco, a game that they had that big lead at halftime. I just think the expectations are different now, right? Last year, the goal was to win a playoff game. They'll say it was Super Bowl or whatever. It wasn't. I mean, the goal was to win the first playoff game for Detroit Lions in 30 years. that's changed now. I mean, now the goal is the Super Bowl, and I think the expectation is the Super Bowl, and I think that will affect how they play in the playoffs. I think they got a great chance to do it. I really do.
Tell me about myfrontpagestory.com.
Well, I've told you about it before. It's funny. Do you know September and October are the two biggest months for weddings, which I think is just nuts because it's football season. So evidently, a lot of people have anniversaries right now, and I get the best anniversary gift for you ever. Myfrontpagestory.com. A writer writes a note, a story all about your significant other. It's incredible. Can't highly recommend it enough. And I look, nobody knows what to get somebody for anniversary. You get them like a gift card or something. Take them out to dinner. No. Myfrontpagestory.com. Best gift ever. Myfrontpagestory.com.
You know what? My mom's 80th birthday coming up next year.
Nice.
I think it's a good idea.
We did it for my sister and I did it for my mom when she turned 70.
We're going to come back. We got more to do. Thanks to Ross Tucker. Always good to chat with him. Don't go anywhere. Tino Pattigno drops by the show in about 10 minutes. Talk about NASCAR, what took place in Darlington on Sunday. The playoffs are set for NASCAR. Get into that. It was a thrilling finish. I was on the edge of my seat. I am not a NASCAR guy. I have watched more NASCAR this year than I've watched in my entire life. I don't know if this guy likes NASCAR. Bill Bender hanging out on the show. Sporting News does an amazing job on college football. Aren't you like the vice president of the College Football Writers Association too?
Yeah, the Football Writers Association. Yeah, the FWA of America, of course.
There you go.
And very proud of that, and yeah, honored, honestly. So yeah, very, very busy week one. I'm not a big NASCAR guy, to answer your question, but I am a huge college football guy, and we had a fun weekend.
Oh, we sure did, Bill. I want to go through three games with you in the 8 minutes I have you for here, and I want to start obviously with what took place on Sunday night. You get these rare early season Sunday night college football games right here in Vegas where we are, USC and LSU. And USC gets a win. And you see Brian Kelly after this game, the LSU head coach, pounding the fist. And everybody's there. He pounded his fist on the table, which people overreacting to that is kind of funny to me. But it does speak to it's week one. And he's already this kind of frustrated. What does that tell you when you see that?
They know how much these neutral site blockbusters matter. You saw how fired up Marcus Freeman was before the Texas A&M game and afterward. That wasn't just a game for Notre Dame. That was a separator in the college football playoff race when you have your schedule. For LSU and USC, that was a separator game. If we get down to 9, 10, 11, 12, USC has it. LSU doesn't. I think it's the frustration of losing 3 straight openers against good opponents. And like he said, players maybe thought the game was over a little bit, and they allowed Miller Moss to drive the ball down at the end of the field. A lot of the focus always goes on Brian Kelly and these losses. I didn't think he coached a bad game. I just think USC made the plays at the end of the game.
It does speak to the embarrassment of riches, though, at USC. When you can go from Caleb Williams to Miller Moss.
Oh, yeah, and they have playmakers on the outside perimeter. I thought Brian Kelly's only mistake was not taking points on the first drive of the game. They go for it from fourth. They were little inside the 5, but I'm still like, just take the points. Big game like this, high emotions, and what do you know? You might have needed those 3 points later. But like you said about USC, big game for Lincoln Riley too. I like these games. I looked this stat up. There were only 7 games in week one between Power 4 opponents, including Notre Dame, if you want to include them. I don't need to see FCS versus Power Conference 40-point blowouts. There were 6 games with Group of 5 schools with top 25 teams. Those games were decided by 40 points or more. So give me more of that, Jason. Give me more of these games. I love them.
But it seems like obviously some schools want to shy away from it. They want the cupcake. They want the exhibition game, so to speak, to get ready for the, it's the dress rehearsal. Some schools just view it differently than others. I love what Notre Dame did going into Texas A&M, by the way. It's another game we could have put on this list, but I only had time for 3, which takes me to the next one. and that is Penn State going into Morgantown and just decimating West Virginia. You had the whole game day crowd there. Everything was pumped up, the big Fox audience, and Penn State went out there and showed they are not somebody to be fooled with this season.
No, and Drew Aller was the difference. One of the top 2 QBRs of the weekend, along with Alabama's Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe played against Western Kentucky. Drew Aller went to a place where they were drinking on Thursday, getting ready for that game and anticipating a win that they hadn't had in Morgantown since 1988. He took a lot of criticism about his big game performance last year against Ohio State, Michigan, and Ole Miss. He delivered. Big shot at the end of the half, too. 50-yard pass, throws a touchdown on the next play. They have to wait. How miserable would you have been waiting in that weather delay as a West Virginia fan just to see the obvious when they came out of it? Penn State was clearly the better team. Might be a threat in the Big Ten because unlike Michigan and Oregon, they have a second-year quarterback. And I do think that matters, especially somebody that's been through the conference a little bit.
Real quick before I get to my last game, it seems everybody's kind of taking a dump, so to speak, for lack of a better word or words, on the quarterback class this year. And it almost sounds like it's casting an aspersion on quarterbacking as a whole. There's a lot of really good quarterbacks still out there in college football. They didn't all just go to the NFL.
There's something to be said about waiting your turn, though. You watch that game last night. Miller Moss and Garrett Nussmeier both played well. Both waited their turn behind Heisman Trophy winners, didn't transfer. Some of those transfer quarterbacks struggled. Riley Leonard struggled despite the win. Will Howard had moments for Ohio State, played well at the end. And Cam Ward was good. But those grades vary. You're playing roulette with transfers. One quarterback I was very impressed with real quick, Dylan Raiola, Nebraska, freshman. He's got it. And that makes that Colorado game, I know we're going to talk about that, very interesting in week 2 with the 2 quarterbacks.
And we talk about Colorado, which scheduled North Dakota State. And as much as people will say, well, you should win this game, we all know the story of North Dakota State and how great this program has been over the years. It doesn't get overlooked. But at the same time, they gave up 20 in the first half. That game was still in doubt fourth quarter. I'm just not wowed by Deion Sanders. And you know how I feel about Deion and the Coach Prime gig and all that stuff. What did you make of Colorado just escaping with a win in week 1?
They're still a guilty pleasure reality TV show. I don't think they're good. I think the defense is bad. They still can't run the ball. They still can't really block, but they have superstar elements about them. Shedeur Sanders, really good player. Hangs in there, throws a good ball, extends plays with that bad offensive line play. Travis Hunter, how many plays can you play? Amazing what he's been able to do. Coach Prime, actually, during the game, I don't really pay attention to him much other than some of his coaching decisions. A couple more seconds on the clock, North Dakota State might win that game. But it leads me to tell you the same thing. Nebraska, Colorado could draw more viewers than Michigan, Texas because of that reality TV show factor. Neither one of those teams are ranked. The other's a top 10 game. I bet the viewership is comparable.
When does that run out? When does that lifespan? When does the lifespan of the novelty, I guess, of Coach Prime and all this wear out? Does it take another 4 and 7 season? What does it take?
Yeah, if they go 4 and 8 again, we'll get off the bandwagon. But the thing is, in the Big 12, plays pretty wide open. Arizona's impressive, but they didn't play defense. They'll get into October and still be in our conscience. Like I said, when I was at Big Ten Media Day, the Nebraska people I was talking to, they are ready for this Colorado game. It is going to be rabid. It is going to be fun. This isn't just a Big 8 throwback game. This is a game they wanted after getting embarrassed last season, and I think it's going to be awesome on Saturday night.
Bill Bender does a great job. Check him out, The Sporting News, at BillBender92 on X. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
We're coming back with Tino next. All right, let's take it to segment 4 on this Monday edition of SportsWrap. We were off for 10 days, which means I didn't get to talk to Tino Pattigno. I did not get my NASCAR dosage of Tino Pattigno. I was close to, though. I was in New York for a few days. I wanted to get together, but just didn't work out. I had too much to jam in. to get together with my boy Tino Pattigno, who hangs out with us. SiriusXM NASCAR betting insider. He is our NASCAR insider here on SportsWrap, and he hangs out with us to talk about a thrilling conclusion to the regular season for NASCAR in Darlington yesterday, the Southern 500, a very historic race. You know, for people who don't understand, it's kind of like what Jack Nicklaus's event is to the PGA Tour. It's not the Daytona 500. It's not the Masters, like golf has the Masters, but it is a really historical venue and carries a lot of weight and significance. And I thought NBC, USA, did a great job in sort of explaining that throughout yesterday's race, Tino. And boy, what a race it was with playoff positioning on the line. You know, you had Bubba Wallace trying to get in, and you wind up with a first-time winner this season in Chase Briscoe, and back-to-back weeks now NASCAR has had somebody punch their ticket for the postseason that wouldn't have been there without a win.
Yeah, I think that's the most special thing about it. For what NASCAR needed to be, that's what it was. Like, that's what the regular season finale at Darlington lived up to, what the hype needed to be, and what NASCAR, the momentum they wanted for the playoffs. To see multiple battles throughout the race, A, for position, B, for the race win. And then you also have the guys fighting for the regular season championship in Kyle Larson and Tyler Reddick coming down to 1 point, and then obviously the guys racing to get into the NASCAR playoffs as well, between Chase Briscoe and Kyle Busch at the end. Two drivers that needed to win the way to get in, and they ultimately did it. A great race overall, I would say. You know, Kyle Larson led a lot of it, but at the end, when it mattered most, the players came to play, and the drivers raced a really good one at Darlington.
Yeah, they sure did. And boy, I was pulling for Kyle Busch, who struggled through so much of this season. I mean, we talked about it ad nauseum on this show, the fact that you just didn't have the car to do it. And then here over the last 4 or 5 races, coming out of the Olympic break, what happened? I mean, Kyle Busch looked like a different driver. That team looked like a different team.
That was exactly right. I would say 2 things happened. One, because it wasn't only Kyle Busch, right? We then saw Austin Dillon at Richmond show a lot of speed. Regardless of how that race ended, he did deserve to be in that top 1 to 3 position because his car was just that fast on that night. I just think RCR, when we had those 2 off weeks for the Olympics, actually just went to work, actually just kind of sat in the shop and said, okay, what do we need to do to make our cars faster? Because it wasn't just Richmond. Michigan, Kyle Busch was leading laps as well. Daytona, he finishes second. Another second place at Darlington. It is very disappointing for that team because of how close they came, but at the same time, putting things in perspective with how bad their season has been, some speed is really good to sort of hold your head up high and say, at least we're going in the right direction. The second thing, too, Kyle Busch, such an impressive drive. I know he's already one of the greatest NASCAR drivers of all time. His resume is already set in stone. But to me, to see like him kind of put that team on his back, 2 second-place finishes to try to get into the playoffs, I think it really showed how hard he's driving that car.
All right, Tyler Reddick wins the points race, but we all know it's like, I'm trying to figure out the best way to describe it. It'd almost be like if somebody else won the Tour Championship yesterday. We all know Scotty Scheffler is the best golfer in the world. Tyler Reddick may have won the points race, but there's no question Kyle Larson is the best driver in NASCAR right now.
No question at all. And hey, there's also no question that if Kyle Larson didn't miss the Coke 600 earlier this year, he would have easily won the regular season championship there based off points. Tyler Reddick only wins it by 1 point. So let's not forget, hey, like you said, Kyle Larson is the best driver right now, and all he needed to do would be to start that race, to get in on time when he was, doing the Indy 500 and the Coke 600. Ultimately couldn't get it done because of weather, couldn't get back in time. Had he started that race and finished, 36th, Kyle Larson would have won the regular season championship.
We'll get into Atlanta when we have you back on Friday for your normal spot. But tell me, sort of handicap the way you look at the series championship right now with where we are. Kyle Larson at plus 380, Denny Hamlin at 400, Christopher Bell at 400, Tyler Reddick at 600, William Byron at 650 according to DraftKings, who has the odds up there. You can go and check it out yourself. How do you handicap this in the last minute and a half?
Well, to me, I think it's important to know that the favorites and their values won't go down that much. Normally in the playoffs, and when it gets to the championship four, there's 4 drivers to battle it out for the win. Well, you got to win the race most times, and then you also win the championship. So you can find better odds for them to do both those things at Phoenix. So I'll leave those 4-1s and 3-1s alone for now. I really want to try to find value early on in these rounds. I'm looking at Joey Logano 16-1, Chase Elliott 11-1, Ryan Blaney, defending series champ, is 7-1 as well. This is important to note. Heading into Talladega, going in between rounds from round 12 to round 8, last season, Blaney was 30-1 to win the championship. He then went on to win Talladega. His price dropped from 30-1 to 10-1. After that, he went on to win the championship. So we can try to find value within these NASCAR playoff rounds to sort of see as these drivers get eliminated. It is 16 drivers, 4 rounds, you could say, and each driver, 4 drivers get eliminated during each round. So I think there's some value out there. I think some of these underdog drivers like Chase Briscoe, Daniel Suarez could continue to make a run and last a little bit longer in this playoffs than some people may expect.
Real quick, I got about 10 seconds here. How about Joey Logano at 1,600?
Oh, yeah. I think Joey could be the play here for some value.
Yeah, I agree as well. That is Tino Pattigno. You can catch him on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. They're betting insider there. He'll be back with us on Friday to preview the race in Atlanta. Thank you, Tino. Always appreciate it, my man.
Thank you. Good to be back.
We're coming back with more Sports Wrap. Don't go anywhere. Let's take it to segment 5 on this Monday edition of the show. And that means something to consider, Sam Yarnell. Something to consider gone too soon. And you follow hockey obviously a bit more than I do, Sam. But I was on vacation and we were on a cruise from Saturday to Saturday, 24th to the 31st of August. And I saw the news like many people did about the passing of Johnny Gaudreau. Johnny Hockey, as he was affectionately known in his college days, his collegiate days at Boston College, played with Calgary, obviously with the Columbus Blue Jackets most recently, him and his brother Matthew, in New Jersey for a wedding, his sister's wedding, where they were serving as ushers, and just unthinkable. Hit by a drunk driver, dead on the scene. And just awful. 31 years old. I mean, you, like I said, you follow hockey more, so you could speak to it more from that perspective. But just an unimaginable tragedy for the NHL, the Gaudreau family, the Blue Jackets, fans of his in Calgary as well.
Yeah, you said it there at the end, right? This became a North American tragedy. And, Jason, we don't often, and loyal listeners and loyal watchers of the show will know that we don't often expose where Studio S is, but I'll say that I'm here in the great state of New Jersey, where the incident took place. And there was a sense all around with the news breaking with all the local affiliates here. It was a very somber kind of feeling all around. Johnny Hockey, obviously well loved in Calgary, after turning that organization with the Flames around the way he did, being the focal point and the cornerstone of that organization, and then obviously trying to do the same there in Columbus. Yeah, it's a sad day. He and his brother both, like you said, in town for their sister's wedding. It doesn't get much more sad than that. It's been really, really cool to see the entire hockey community, like I said, across both the US and Canada kind of come together about this whole thing. And just about a couple of weeks away from training camp, it'll be interesting to see how the NHL kind of handles this going into the season.
I'll get on my soapbox for 1 second. I lost a friend to a drunk driving accident 7 years ago. Rest in peace, Frank Barabbas. Somebody I went to school with, somebody we reconnected in our adult years and were part of a group of friends. Lost him to a drunk driving accident. He was on his motorcycle. Got killed in the morning by a drunk driver. Somebody was morning drinking. And the person's going to be behind bars for a while, as they should be. I say it all the time. Drunk driving to me is like waving around a loaded gun and shooting it off and hoping it doesn't hit somebody. That's essentially what you're doing when you get behind the wheel, drunk and loaded up on alcohol. It needs to be punished more than it is. We don't punish it, I think, severely enough in this country, despite all the groups that are out there, the MADs of the world and all of this stuff. I always have fervently believed it is something we do not punish nearly harshly enough in this country. All right. From that to another tragedy, and there have been a few of them, and it is young high school football players dying on the field. Caden Tellier is on your screen. He is just one of a few that have passed away in the last couple of weeks due to injuries sustained on middle and high school football fields. And it speaks to the inherent danger that this game still has. No matter how much we try to make it safe, no matter how much we try to take out this type of hit or that type of hit, that the game moves so fast. And it is once again a reminder, as we get ready for the start of the NFL season, and you're going crazy about your fantasy rosters or who you put a wager on and who you have in your pick'em games and things like that, that these guys are going out there, and I get it. They're compensated to the tunes of millions of dollars, life-changing money in a year that we won't see in our lifetimes. But with that said, there is the danger that these sports come with, especially football. And when you see kids dying in high school, not even close to the prime of their lives yet, it is once again a reminder of the dangers that come with this game, Sam.
It is. I think that it also, Jason, speaks a lot to the coaching and how that has evolved over the course of years. What people need to understand is that these kids, and that's exactly what they are, kids from about age 12 to age 18 are being pushed harder than, you and I push ourselves as full-grown adults in terms of working out. It's incredible, the stress that they're putting their bodies under. There needs to be a serious overhaul, and this isn't the only sport. Granted, it is the only sport where we're seeing kids die on the field, but this isn't the only sport where we're seeing this skyrocketing number of childhood injuries. Across sports, we need to reevaluate how we coach kids and try to make them better athletes.
Well said, Sam. Last but not least, thank goodness Ricky Pearsall is okay. Released from the hospital on Sunday after being shot in Union Square. I can't tell you how many times I have walked down the exact street, the exact block, having lived in the Bay Area for a number of years, that Ricky Pearsall walked down and never felt like something like this could have happened. Shot by a 17-year-old. Ricky Pearsall is going to be okay. Shot through the chest and still manages to survive. Forget when he gets back on the field or plays football or any of that. Just hoping the best thoughts for Ricky Pearsall in this unimaginable situation that happened in San Francisco this weekend, Sam.
Here is the story here. Ricky Pearsall is an absolute bad guy. This was awesome what he did. This kid pulled a gun on him. Ricky Pearsall got into a fight with the kid and won the fight. He brought nothing to a gunfight, didn't even bring a knife, and still won. Ricky Pearsall, you're a bad man. I'm glad you're okay. Thoughts and prayers with him right now. But yeah, that was an incredible story. I'm excited to see Ricky Pearsall get back on the field one day.
He is certainly going to be a fan favorite. We are back with Odds and Ends, Major League Baseball. What I miss over the last week and a half. It's next. All right. Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Monday. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Especially if you're brand new to the show, welcome. We're here Monday through Friday, right here for an hour. Weekends as well. But if you can't make it, maybe your DVR doesn't work. Doesn't everybody have DVR today? Maybe not. If you can't get the show on your television, you can get it through the SportsWrap with Jason Page podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. You can watch the show. Available on Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, a whole bunch more. All right, Sam Yarnell, without any further delay, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, Sam Yarnell. What I miss over the last week and a half in Major League Baseball? Yes, I've been keeping tabs. I was in New York for a few days before the cruise, so I was kind of keeping track of what was going on. Then you're on a cruise ship, you're eating buffets every day, surf and turf. I'm not going to lie. If you haven't done the cruising lifestyle, get out there and do the cruising lifestyle. It's fantastic. Hello to Joy, by the way, 73 years old, still going strong. We took pictures together on our cruise. She was the most fantastic woman from Long Island, and she had the accent to match. It was fantastic. Get on a cruise ship if you ever get a chance. It's fantastic. What I miss in baseball, Sam?
Shout out to all of our friends and viewers in Long Island. Listen, here's what you missed. The Yankees and Orioles, they're still battling for first place in the AL East. The loser's going to get the first wild card spot. Aaron Judge is pacing to break his own record, I think. I don't know. It seems like he hits a homer every other day at this point. But then there are all those trolls on Twitter who say that he can only hit home runs on pitches right down the middle, and then he continues to only hit home runs on pitches right down the middle, so he's not helping his own cause there. The Philadelphia Phillies continue to win games, but the Atlanta Braves, without their two best players, are still hot on their tail. The Braves are going to be a hot team come October. The Milwaukee Brewers are continuing to win games. No one can figure out why. They're the Rays of the National League now, and every day they've got a new great pitcher. The Cardinals are officially out of it, and another letdown season for everybody in St. Louis. The Dodgers are keeping pace with everybody in terms of the wins. Shohei Ohtani is going to win the NL MVP, and there was an insane line the other day to get his bobblehead in Los Angeles. But at the end of the day, Jason, it seems like the Dodgers may be the team that let us down the most. And oh, by the way, 3 of the top 4 picks from last year's MLB draft are playing in the major leagues now. Dylan Cruz called up by the Washington Nationals. Hi, Masson, last week.
That was pretty good. By the way, hello to our friends watching on Root Sports as well, up in the great Northwest where they fired their manager. Thank God, it was about time. We're now on there 7 days a week, so that is pretty cool. Shohei Ohtani, real quick, to go 50-50 right now. The yes is minus 125. The no is minus 102. Where are you laying your money, Sam Yarnell?
Yes, because it's fun. Yeah, I want to see a guy go 50-50. What? Yeah, that's crazy. I think there's been one person who's done it ever, and it was Ronald Acuna Jr. last year. No, he didn't.
No, he never 50.
He would be the first one ever to go 50-50. Yeah, it'd be really fun to see. Shout out Shohei Ohtani. That guy rocks.
I was going to say that Aaron Judge was my overall MVP in baseball this year. If Ohtani goes 50-50, Judge could hit all the home runs he wants. If Ohtani goes 50-50, it's got to be Ohtani.
If Ohtani goes 50-50, the way I would give it to Judge is if he breaks the real home run record set by the real greatest player of all time, Barry Bonds.
Okay. Another topic for...
what is that, 77?
No, 73? No, it wasn't 76. It was like 73. Or
so,
something
yeah,
like
if
that.
Aaron Judge hits 74 bombs this year, then he can be better than Shohei Ohtani.
And by the way, I have sent Sam Yarnell the picture. I'll put it on the screen for our viewers. Yours truly got a Bobby Witt All-Star Game jersey. While in New York City, I was at the MLB flagship store, went and picked one up. I had to give props because there are no Yankee jerseys with names on the back, which is why I won't buy one. Because then people are always asking, which player is that? And I don't feel like answering that question. Bobby Witt. The odds are down to now plus 1,300 for Bobby Witt to win AL MVP. Big final month of the season? Little sprinkle, Sam?
So here's why those odds are so short. It's because the Royals are a wild card team right now. And I bet you, yeah, they'll probably make the playoffs. That's why Bobby Witt's price has gotten so short. It's Aaron Judge's award unless he doesn't hit, 60 homers. If he hits less than 60 homers, it could be up for debate. But he's going to go over 60, and Bobby Witt's not going to win the MVP. That said, all around, there is a very strong argument to be made that Bobby Witt is the best player in the American League right now.
And, Aaron Judge last year, he kind of struggled getting to the finish line for the, not last year, the year before. The year he broke the record, he kind of struggled getting to the finish line.
No. Okay, all right. I'm hitting the pause button because, Jason, this is our first show on 100 new affiliates, and we are not going to convince them in our very first episode with the new viewers that I'm the guy that supports Aaron Judge and you're the guy that's doubtful about him. No. That's not how this works. I've been saying all year long, this guy is a flash in the pan. He's not a Hall of Famer. He's way too old. The career will be over soon. But now all of a sudden, he's going to slow down late in the season. I mean, come on.
We gotta go. Thanks to Tino. Thanks to you, Sam. Ross Tucker, Bill Bender. We're back here on Tuesday for more Sports Wrap. Thanks for being with us.